There we go. There we got the audio sorted. Welcome to Tier 2. Whilst my game is now struggling to respond to me, we are at... There we go. We are at Jeddah for Tier 2. This is round 7 for F1 2022. Already, the championship has been won. Pinax won the race. Pinax has already won the race. He won the race last week at Portugal. So now we are off to Jeddah for round 7. The skies are clear. So it'll be interesting to see what our drivers can do. And before we get into qualifying, even though it has just started, fortunately no one has left just yet, we are affiliated with Rogue Energy. Code PHX at checkout for 10% off of your order. Well, I didn't get the game capture updated. I promise I'm good at this stuff. Here we go. Should be updated. There we go. Joined today with Joe. Joe, how are you? Hello.
Hello.
God, you still sound a little sick, but you'll survive.
We might have a problem.
Why? What's up?
Okay, the same people left and joined. Realistic time isn't on. Yes, it is. Quality's always during the day. Can someone message in the paddock and tell the guy that quality's during the day? That's what it should be.
Yeah, it is.
We would panic then.
Apparently, Park
I said
Fermi's on.
to... Oh shit. No, it is. Fuck, I've got to turn off.
All right, we'll just red flag the session momentarily then.
Fuck.
It was bound to happen. It's fine. F1 tier 3.
Mind my language. My bad.
Red flag. Back to briefing room, please.
Well, at least it doesn't leave track control on.
Yep, that's fine. All right, back
sorry.
to the briefing room. We'll be back momentarily. Welcome back. Thank you for holding with us. The red flag has been sorted out. It was a slight issue on our end, slight technical fault. Unfortunately, we got the settings wrong, but we are back underway with qualifying. I would say under the lights, but qualifying is done during the day, so under the sunlight.
Wow, dim sunlight, but yeah.
Dim sunlight. It will go night eventually. But yeah. Whoa, now we're back up and running. But
Hopefully.
now that we have the championship...
See, this is where my
Go
internet dies.
Yeah. Oh no, as tech unfortunately is disconnected. And Stu.
Stu.
Oh no.
That's what I said last time. But then when we got in, they were fine. As the session starts.
Okay, now the
Fine.
session's just started.
See, everyone's fine though.
Yeah. Stu's just messaged me as well now.
What's it said?
Got removed from session. Alright, so
Don't
just send them an invite again.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we've got the
I
championship
don't have Stu.
already over. I will check my friends list. Who do you think is going to win? Because Pinax, if for Pinax now, it's just a matter of race and have fun.
Who's second? Is there out for second?
That is a good question. Let's have a look. Stu's managed to join back.
There's Tech.
The standings. Right, so for Tier 2, our standings are Pinax, Med, and Ghost Rider. Med is a no-show today. Ghost Rider is a no-show today. Nadim is no longer racing. Lava is a no-show today. So the next person in the list is Mousy Cheese, who is on track. Mousy Cheese is 36 points away from second place. So he could still achieve second place at the end of next week. This week he can close the gap.
I reckon with attendance, yeah, I reckon he can get it.
I think, who do we have at the front of the queue? I think that will be Ben Cassie, first one out of the pits. Ben, who joined the Phoenix halfway through this season and already in Tier 3 is in contention of winning it into the final race. So an already impressive drive by the Mercedes driver. I look forward to seeing Japan to see if who from our top 3 contenders for the championship can win. We've got Suffocating, who I think is sitting in second place, 1 point behind Pulsar in first, and Ben sitting just 6 points, I think, or 7 points behind second place for the championship. So all Ben has to do is score 8 points, and he also, or sorry, 8 or more points, and he will secure himself that Tier 3 championship. But now here we go with Ben coming down towards the main straight to start the first flying lap of the session. Right on board with him. Let's see where the Mercedes driver can put his car down towards the first corner. Very tight section, tight left. Fortunately, curbs aren't as tight, as deadly as the first one. As we see Aston Martin backwards, unfortunately. Sharp right-hander. Although we are using strict corner cutting, you can essentially cut that corner because it is within the limits of the track. To a very long right-hander, quick left and right towards what was a DRS straight last year. Essentially through that entire section in the 6th gear, setting the bar at 33.0 for the first sector, around the first hairpin of the track, sorry, down into the second sector. Now we've got 2 sets of corners here. We've got a quick right and left hander. You can very quickly get through the gears without much problem. The curb won't be much of an issue, but down to the second straight where you got DRS now approaching the second chicane, your exit is crucial out of this corner as you then line yourself up for the last, or sorry, second to last. Well, no, yeah, the last DRS straight of the track before you hit the last hairpin. A hairpin we have seen many overtakes in the real life calendar, real life race, sorry. Now to the line, 4th, 5th, 6th, DRS wide open to the line. First lap on the leaderboard, a 1:29.6, who's just behind him. McLaren Pinax, our championship winner, putting in a 1:28.5, a whole 1.1 second improvement. Jeddah's I think the way I described it earlier, as Chris puts in a 1:29.2, the way I put it earlier was think of Jeddah like a. Let's see. I don't know. Think of it like a dance. Once you get to the rhythm of it, you'll be fine. You know, you'll fly through the track. And I think a lot of these drivers have already said, you know, their enjoyment for this track. They absolutely love this track. So it'll be interesting. Apologies, to see how they do. So let's see what they can do. I know Ben's expressed his interest and his love for the track. Cthulhu has done it as well. He raced in Tier 3 yesterday. I loved it. And I'm sure quite a few other drivers have also mentioned it before. I think Robbie putting in a banker lap, a 153.0. Yeah, going for a recharge. Put one banker on, get those tyres fired up perfectly before you go for the flying lap. As unfortunately, he does come through this first sector, towards the end of the first sector, and does come spinning out of the... I don't know what they're called, but out of the 7th to 9th corners. I call them the gear 6 corners, because that is purely what you do. You kind of sit your car in 6th gear and you go through them. As Panos crosses the line now with a 128.6, just 11 hundredths of a second off of Pinax's time. Ben in the pits. Who else do we have on track? We've got Formula 1 Alpine Reserve out on track. He's, I think, coming around the... Yeah, he's just finished the first sector, so now he'll be coming up. Be interesting to see where the Alpine driver can put his car. Will he be someone...
yellow flags.
There is. I think it's... Yes, that's the Haas, I think, getting out of the way for the Alpha Tauri of Point K. No, not Point K. That's a blue car. That's Rob, I think. Yeah, there comes Rob. In fact, Rob's going in the pits. Oh, I think Pinax, not Pinax, I think Panos is in low fuel mode.
Oh dear.
So I think he's done with that qualifying lap so far. Let's have a look back to the Alpine driver. He's now started his hot lap. Will we see Formula 1 find himself on the front row for the race? Or will it be just behind them? Although Pinax may not have anything else to fight for in this championship, he can still fight for that most number of podiums, most number of wins. It'll be interesting to see. And then we do have the Aston Martin duo with Nazim in the chat. Will we see Aston Martin come out with a 1-2? Be interesting to see what all the different teams can do. We do have some full lineups. We've got Ferrari, both drivers on the grid, Williams as well, Alfa Romeo, McLaren, Aston Martin. So that's 5 teams with a full lineup for the race today. It'll be interesting to see. Are we going to see any team orders trying to go for getting a toe for a qualifying lap, or perhaps going for defending like a lion, like Perez has done, as we've seen last season? Be interesting to see now. As we see Formula 1 come round the final hairpin down to the line now. He does have a Haas just ahead of him. Fortunately, not going to give him much of a tow. DRS wide open to the line. A 128.9 finds himself just 5/100ths of a second behind the Ferrari driver, Trexie. Very good lap. With only 2 drivers this session in those sub-129s. Now, the only driver who has not come out for a lap has been Dante, the second of the Aston Martin drivers. I have to say, I love commentating, but I do miss playing F1 and having music on in the background. I'm so used to having music on in the background. when listening to the sounds of the cars. It was quite eerily
Honestly,
quiet.
yeah, it helps having music on. Helps distract you, especially on this track.
Oh yeah, definitely on this track. Hi Nadim, how are you? How's the snow? I wish I had some snow. Can you throw some over here, please? I could play it in the background. I do have a lo-fi music playlist. I guess what I could do is just have it on, and then if something interesting happens, just turn it off for the commentating. That's fair.
Yeah, it's possible.
Certainly is, and it's not copyright as well. So like I'm
No,
not gonna
yeah,
get I'm not gonna get in
strike or
trouble.
anything. Yeah.
Let's have a look then.
Kind of concerning Dante hasn't come out the pitch yet.
Yeah, maybe he's just still unsure about the track, so he's
Yeah.
gonna just wait and let. I mean, to be fair, considering tier 3, I would have possibly preferred to stay at the back of the grid. I
Yeah.
found myself qualifying, I think it was 5th or 6th, with you just a couple places behind me.
Yeah.
Oh no, there we go.
Oh,
It was
never
because
mind,
he
it wasn't in the session, yeah.
wasn't in session. Okay, that makes sense.
That does make sense. I did invite him a minute ago because I saw he launched the game again. Maybe his game crashed.
Maybe.
Yeah,
God, how
that
could
was
you
internet
forget
died, I
then?
don't
You're the
know.
one who invited him.
I thought he was in the session.
Right, let's see. Trexie going to the line,
I thought he
I
was in
think.
the session. I thought he was just doing the weird like Steam thing where it says he's playing the game again.
That's fair. See, Trexie is now starting his second hot lap, I believe, as Robbie is retired. That is at the end of Sector 1. In fact, that's coming out of Turn 7, which is the 6th gear corners, as I call it. Let's see what Trexie Chad can do, then. That does not sound right. I'm not using that Shanae. He's just going to be Trexie into the 6th gear corners. We need to change the name to 6 gear corners, as he does go wide, but manages to not gain too much time for the game to allow it. He does manage to get himself a purple first sector. Now, that is the Trexie's. I say Trexie's made a good point. He hasn't, but he has reminded me that although track limits are on strict, there is only like one corner. Okay, make that 2 corners, where you can basically use the curbs and go slightly off the road and not get penalised for it. So Trexie's using absolutely every limit of the track that is available, and that the game allows to be able to put in a lap. Somehow not invalidating the lap there, going completely off the track. But I'm guessing the curbs are counted as part of the track then.
Yeah.
Now, to the last hairpin. What do you mean now, what's that? To the line. DRS Wedom, he seems to be going for a slightly... Oh, there we go. Down for a very narrow line to the line. Narrow line to the line there. I'll stick with that with a 129.3. I'm losing my mind slowly. God damn it, Nadim. As Panos puts in a new fastest lap with a massive improvement, beating Pinax's time by 3 tenths, or 4 tenths now. A 128.198 by Panos. Incredible time. And very good for the Aston Martin. I mean, Nadim, can you give us a live interview when you're in the chat? Are you excited for this race? As we've got Dante finally back in the session. He's also on his outlap. So let's see, where can we have the second... I say the second driver. There's no 1s and 2s, but he is the other driver for Aston Martin. Are we going to see a front row lockout by the Aston Martins? Or will Pinax split the two and find them one behind the other? Well, let's see if they can So we have Formula 1 putting in a lap. A 1:28.8 finds himself on the second row, bumping Ben down to 4th place. To the line, here we goes Dante for his first flying lap of the session into the first corner. Very tight chicane. Like I said earlier, that orange curb can kill you, but you can manage it quite well. You can actually mount it without having your car fly in the air. In towards corners 4, 5, and 6 now. Towards into the 6th gear corner. I'm just going to call it 6th gear corners. As unfortunately Dante goes spinning coming through those corners. His back end just not sticking to the ground as much as he would want it to. And unfortunately, that has given him front wing damage. I'm fairly certain it gave him front wing damage. No, there was definitely something that came flying off there, though. So that quite possibly will have to be a trip to the pit stop. Once this yellow flag disappears from the two McLarens, we'll be able to see how much time is left. I think that's Pinax in low fuel mode going into the pits. There we go, 2.5, just over 3 minutes, just under 3 minutes, sorry. I swear he touched the wall. I swear I saw carbon fiber come off of the car.
Yeah. Maybe it's very minimal damage.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like anything. But F1, we all know F1 22 is great. Codemasters are absolutely amazing at their job. They are really helpful with getting it right. So we have a yellow flag out. I think that's Point K. Yeah, unfortunately having a bit of a spin. Let's go back on board with Dante, though. He's going through, across the line, the 1:48. But that is, of course, with the spin. That is a good banker lap, though. The spin will help, I say the spin will help, but having a banker lap will help him have delta to be able to understand, is he improving, is he losing time? In certain sectors, of course, he only has this one run left. That is it. So let's stay with Dante as he goes really wide. I think that might be him ditching that lap altogether. Dante
might have enough time to get to the line.
Has a minute and 24. He'll be able to make it to the line. It's just a matter of, are those tyres? Those tyres are going to be burnt to a crisp. So it'll be interesting to see. Now we do have Pinax and Panos out. Pinax, who I have to say, like, he's a mouse and keyboard driver, and I don't know how he does it. It is absolutely impressive. He does manual gearing as well. I'm just stunned by his performance, and he's managed to put in a lap that almost, I say almost beats Panos, sorry, but he managed to put a lap that really cuts down the gap to Panos. It'll be interesting to see, can Pinax put in a lap to beat Panos, be a first to be a sub 128, or will he remain in P2? Panos starting his hot lap, final hot lap of the session. He does. There goes Pinax. Pinax coming into the last sector, whereas Panos going into the 4th gear corner round the bends. Panos will definitely give Pinax a run for the money, and I think Pinax, if he's got the pace on mouse and keyboard, give him a wheel, and no one's going to stand a chance. If he's got the confidence, as Point K unfortunately retires, if he's got the confidence to drive around Jeddah of all tracks, Panos putting a purple first sector, improving still. If Pinax is this quick and winning the championship on the keyboard, just imagine what he can do on the wheel. It'd be insane. Next across the line for Sector 1, Pinax through the corners towards what was the old DRS straight. Fortunately, is not a massive improvement. Actually, currently 1/10 down on his previous lap time. Panos 2/10 up on his previous lap time in the second sector. Is this going to be a sub 128 lap? As Pinax is still just 1/10 off of his previous time in the second sector. Panos is absolutely flying through this track. Down towards the line, DRS is going to be wide open very soon. There it is, wide open to the line. Is this going to be a sub 127? Sub 128, it is! It is a 127.9 by Panos, absolutely smashing his previous best by 2/10. Can Pinax beat this? He is already 1/10 down in the first and middle sector. Can he find the time in that final lap?
Dante goes second.
As Dante takes second place, can Pinax cut the duo, or will he remain on the second row? To the line, unfortunately, Pinax does not improve by much. Dante, with a stellar lap, locks out the front row off the grid for Aston Martin. A brilliant lap by the pair of them. Panos with a sub 128. That was a lap I was not expecting at all. When I look at the time trial times, no one is hitting a sub 128, but here comes Panos from out of nowhere. He manages to set the first sub 128, and that is impressive. Honestly, I am definitely looking forward to this. I said to Ben in the briefing room, I think it'd be nice to see him get top 3. He clearly got strong pace, but I think Panos, he's ready for this race. He is geared and ready to fight. He wants this win. And I think he's definitely got the pace for it. Let's just see what strategy, if the strategy will fall into their grasps. Well, it's up to them, really. I mean, they do have the pace. Tier 1 is our no assist league, so it can be that they are racing with assists, so they're not comfortable to race in Tier 1 just yet. But, who knows? We've seen drivers beat them before, or almost beat them before. I mean, Pinax, I think, came second in Portugal last week. So, Panos may have the pace, but there's still plenty of competition out there on the track to beat them beat them to the podium. And as I mentioned before, ultimately, although the championship is done, ultimately everyone wants to get points for that rate for the championship. But even if it's done, there are still I wouldn't say awards. There aren't rewards, but there are. You can feel. What's the word I'm looking for?
No,
Think of it like a chip on your shoulder to say, you managed to win with 3 wins.
weight off your shoulder.
It's not weight off your shoulder, but if you manage to, although you may not have come first in the championship, but you still managed to win, let's say in your first season of Phoenix, to come out with 3 wins, that's still really impressive and really should be something you should be proud of. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if will we have a new winner? Will we have Dante? Will this be the race for Dante to redeem himself from Shut Up Nadim from Portugal last week? He did have a very unfortunate race. He found himself spinning a couple times on his strategy. So could this be the race where he finds himself on top? Or will this be another win for Panos, being a back-to-back win for Aston Martin? Currently, actually, if I have a look now to the standings for the constructors, Aston Martin are currently sitting in 5th place. Unfortunately, there isn't enough. In fact, no, there is plenty of races. You've still got this week and next week. So a 1-2 will be strong for the team. Alfa Romeo with both drivers on the grid, Mercedes with 1, Alpine with 1, and McLaren with both. So will McLaren extend their lead, or if Aston Martin secure a 1-2, they will cut down that gap to McLaren by a huge amount, and Aston Martin could still walk away with the Constructors' Championship in hand. Be interesting to see. Let's have a look at the tyres. We have a good handful of mixed strategies, and to my surprise, the first thing I notice is both McLarens have opted to go for the mediums, not going for alternating strategies. Every other, and the 2 Williams as well, have both gone for the mediums. Every other duo team we have gone for alternating strategies. It'll be interesting to see who's going to pit first, or do they think they're going to have enough time between one another to possibly go for a double stack into the pits. It'll be interesting to see now. Let's go through for the formation lap. Yeah, the tables haven't been updated. That is correct. But still, even with that win last week for Panos, I think the gap will still be around 30 or 40 points. So a 1-2 ahead of McLaren will be huge for Aston Martin. It'll be interesting to see who will take the lead after this. Obviously, hopefully we'll have the tables all updated prior to the final round of the season finale at Suzuka next week. So we'll be able to see officially and properly who is in the lead and who's going to walk away with that Constructors title, as we now see Panos coming down the main straight for the formation lap. I know you're praying for a 1-2. I have to stay unbiased, but as a Ferrari team principal, temporary Ferrari team principal for the season, but I'll be full-time next season. I would love to see Ferrari up there, but again, I have to remain unbiased. Of course, I want all of our drivers to be winning races. If I could, I would dish out podiums to everyone, but of course, that's not how the game works. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's take a sip of water before we have a very spicy start, as Ben unfortunately gets disqualified. And destroy a track. There you go. There's a... I don't know why you'd go for a 2-stop to go medium, medium, hard. That seems quite unreasonable. But I guess the game knows all. The game knows best. Fortunately, with those two drivers disqualified, F122, when you're disqualified during a formation lap, your tyres are frozen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now. Here we go, 5 red lights. Can we get a better view of the drivers? No? Alright. Drive-through ready for Trexie with a jump start. The start of the race, Dante with a brilliant exit out of the first... Off of the start, sorry, out of the first exit. Finds himself in the lead. There's a lot of changing order. Chris finds himself up a few positions, unfortunately spinning out a couple places. Drac as well. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Trexie finds himself up now into 4th place. Of course, he's got that drive-through now to serve within the next 3 laps. Finds himself just behind the train of top 4. Then we've got Mousy and Drac swapping positions. Mousy now up into 5th place, starting from 9th place. Just behind, there goes Chris for a move. Round Destroyer Drac down in towards the last, or the first hairpin, sorry. Then we have just behind Formula 1, unfortunately, finds himself on the back foot. Now down to 9th place. That's further down towards the back of the grid. Point K up to 12th place, and Robbie G up to 13th place. Ben Cassie finding himself really far back down to the bottom of the grid, down into 15th place. Very unfortunate to see that. Very curious to know what happened there. There was definitely a lot of commotion in that first lap, as Panos finds himself back in the lead. Dante now down to 3rd place. There is a lot happening on that first lap. But now Pinax up a position. Dante, after a brilliant exit off of the line, unfortunately, or a brilliant start off the line, finds himself down into 3rd place. But now Pinax trying to go for a move round the outside, down towards the line now, just behind Panos, managing to get that switchback and maintain his lead of this race. Now finishing the first lap, Panos sets the fast lap, understandably and obviously. Trexie now serving his drive-through. There goes Pinax round the outside. He does leave enough space to the driver on the inside into the second corner, having to cut almost the corner side by side into the next corner, the next left-hander, the turn 4 into 5. Unfortunately, Pinax has to back out of that fight. Dante right back in the mix of it. Chris has also found himself back up into 5th place. Mousy, really good start for Mousy and Texas, finding themselves up in 5 and 6 places respectively. Behind them, who do we have? We've got Tech just right on the gearbox. Trexie coming out 4 seconds behind. Formula 1 making a move. He's found himself around Destroyer Drac, now into the first chicane. Finds himself now up into 7th place. What happened to Trexie? Trexie unfortunately jumped the line at the start of the race, found himself with a drive-through to be served in the first 3 laps. He decided to pit it as soon as possible instead of waiting for the drivers to space out. I think there was a collision there, maybe? No, there's no collision. Now we've got ourselves... Now it's calmed down a little bit. You can see there where the trains are. We've got a train of drivers from 1st to 6th place. In fact, now it's 1st to 2nd as... Dante, and I think Dante made a mistake. Now Mousy's all over the back of Dante, coming down towards the final chicane, not making a move just yet. DRS will be enabled as they cross the line now. Panos coming towards it. DRS will be enabled, so all the drivers behind someone within a second will find himself with DRS now. Panos with the new fast lap at 8-second improvement, obviously.
Alright.
That's fine. I dare you cough.
My bad.
He is a sitting duck, but Dante, he may be a sitting duck, and I think Trexie started on the hards as well. The hards are going to come into the race really well. The medium tyres, if I recall correctly, can only last around 12 to, I want to say 10 to 12 laps, or 10 to 13 laps at a push. So the hard compound tyres are going to come in huge, especially when you finish the race on those softer compounds compared to everyone else. So that could be the make it or break it to finish the race in 1st place. Chris finds himself... Actually, let's go back to the tyres, shall we? Chris is on the mediums. We do have... So, let's see. We've got Ben, who had a very unfortunate start. He now finds himself down to 13th place. Got him set in, though. He's now 2 seconds behind Stu, so we can improve from this. We've then got Rebellious, who has just managed to overtake... as I say that, sorry, no... Point K has managed to make the overtake on those mediums ahead of Rebellious. We've got the two hards of Destroyer Drac and Formula 1 in 7th and 8th place, respectively, who Destroyer Drac, unfortunately, finds himself just out of reach for DRS. But Formula 1 makes a move onto Tech. Now, there goes Formula 1 on those hard... I was about to say those hard combat tyres. I would assume in the first 3 or 4 laps, those hards are going to be so much slower than the other drivers. But no, as I say that, there goes Dante with a fastest lap as well. So you can throw all of that out the window. I guess all of the tyres are warmed up and ready to go as Tech looks to the outside, goes for a move round the outside into the first corner. They seem to have collided between the two drivers, but coming out of turn 3 now into 4, Tech finds himself back up into 6th place. Very good, very risky move between the pair of them. They managed to keep it clean, I believe. Of course, we can't see all of the damage that happens to the cars because EA, at its finest again, will not give us all of that information. Slightly further down the grid, we do have a fight, I believe. We've got Stu, Rebellious, and Point K all fighting for 10th place. Point K really pushing. He's got those medium tyres. Unfortunately, Stu finds himself going wide. Rebellious now going round the outside and well before the braking zone finds himself now up a position into 10th place, currently in position to secure 1 point for Ferrari. Slightly further ahead, we've got Chris now 0.2 seconds behind, closing into that Alfa Romeo just ahead. He will have DRS coming down into this straight. Where is the DRS? There's the DRS line, but unfortunately he's not opened it for that line there. He will have it on the second row, on the second stretch here. Be interesting to see. There we go. DRS is wide open. He's going for the line. Is he going to be able to cut that gap down? As someone has spun.
Using his front wing.
I think, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's the Alpine of Formula 1, who unfortunately has found himself with no front wing now as Panos puts in the new fast lap on those mediums. Medium seems to be firing up perfectly. Dante finds himself still very close. There goes Chris making a move down the main straight. Finds himself now up into 4th place into the first corner. Very good move indeed. Destroyer Drac also into the pits. I think Destroyer Drac possibly got caught out in the mix of that spin as well. Formula 1, the first to receive a 5-second time penalty going into the pits. Now, I did mention this in the briefing. Jeddah, unfortunately, is one of those tracks where if you are caught out going into the pits far too quickly, you can be penalised for speeding about 50 metres before the pit limiter line. Because EA is great, and they know how to program their game properly. So, if a driver serves that penalty, we cannot remove it. But if they finish the race with that 5 seconds still, there is a chance that we could remove it, as Stu is going alongside Rebellious into the hairpin, finds himself just positioned perfectly to get the right amount of speed, and find himself now up into 9th place. Rebellious staying in 10th place. Point K seems to have set in quite comfortably. He got himself a 4-second gap to the cars ahead of him. So there'll still be plenty of work if he wants to fight for more positions. Further ahead, Panos now coming towards the final hairpin. He finds himself a 1.5 seconds ahead. As I say that now, Stu and... Oh my god, there's too much going on now. Stu finds himself now up into 9th place. Point K tries to go around the outside. Now Rebellious is in the middle of that fight. Point K is fighting two drivers at once. There's a five-way battle here as the Mercedes of Ben Cassie finds himself in the side pods of Stu. Hopefully no damage has been given to either driver. Very unfortunate incident between the two of them. Now as we see Destroyer Drac has retired from the race, Point K going around the outside along with Ben Cassie. DRS wide open for loads of those drivers. Rebellious losing out on 1 position so far from the AlphaTauri. Ben finds himself also up another position. But I think Stu, unfortunately, from all of that, has found himself now down all the way to 12th place. Trexie promotes himself up into 11th place. Oh, there's too much going on, man. Sammy Daniel up into 5th place. Managed to make an overtake on Tech. Tech is still right behind him. We'll have DRS down the next straight, which won't be until the middle of Sector 2. Dante, on those hard compound tyres, now finds himself really in the groove of this track and is now half a second behind Pinax. He will have the DRS advantage. Are we going to see a move? Are we going to see a change in leadership for the teams in the top two? Will it be a lockout for the Aston Martins, or will it be continued Aston Martin, McLaren, Aston Martin, McLaren? Catch my breath. To the back of the grid, we still have a five-way battle. A massive DRS train from 8th place Point K in the AlphaTauri all the way down to 13th place with the Red Bull of Robbie G now, as we see Trexie and Ben are closing in on the other Ferrari. Ben does have the DRS. He's going for a move down the inside. I love this camera angle. Please keep it. He makes the move well before the braking zone. Ben Cassie now finds himself up into 9th place. The two Ferraris are now fighting each other. Are we going to have team orders between the two of them? As I think Trexie will have DRS now. Again, 5-6 cars now going down the main straight, all with DRS on one another. Are we going to see a change in position for the two Ferraris, or are we going to see them staying the same as Ben Cassie goes down the inside into the turn 1 and manages to come out ahead? Now finds himself along the inside of Point K, but comes out of that battle ahead now into 8th place. Just behind them, Trexie is still not out of this. He's come down the inside on the AlphaTauri of Point K, now finds himself up into the 9th place. Very clean racing by all of them. I don't know how I'm managing to keep up with all of them. So now it's Ben to Trexie to Point K to Rebellious and to Stu. Very close fight, but now Ben and Trexie are going to continue to pull each other along. Two very fast drivers who want to be winning this race, and I can see them with the strategies that they've got on. It is definitely something that is possible, as Point K now is having to defend from two drivers. He's got Rebellious and he's got Stu with DRS behind them going into the first set of chicanes for Sector 2. There will be a DRS straight in between the first and second chicane of the second sector. Point K manages to build a slight bit of a gap, but Stu is looking for a move. He's around the inside. He could be going for a move down this main straight, or will he back out before the next chicane? We'll have to see. Now going into the second chicane, he does manage to keep his car on the inside, unfortunately pushing Rebellious wide, and does find himself almost backing into Robbie behind him. Robbie now into the wall, losing his front wing, unfortunately caught out in the middle of that whole disaster of one driver trying to go down the inside of another, and oh, there's so much going on now. Just further ahead, we've got Texas going for a move down the outside now, down the main straight. I can't get my words out properly. Now around the outside, leaving enough space to either driver, and Tech now finds himself up into 5th place. This is very spicy so far. Trexie 0.1 second behind Ben Cassie into the first, second, now third and fourth corner. He will have DRS, but DRS is not enabled. Sorry, there is no DRS straight for the entire duration of the first sector, or first and most of second sector. So Trexie will have to remain as close behind the Mercedes driver ahead of him before he can even think about making a move. Perhaps he might be close enough with a brilliant exit out of this corner now. Will he try and make a move down the inside? Unfortunately, he's not close enough just yet. We are now at lap 7, and these mediums are slowly getting towards the end of their life. They are going to have to pit at some point very soon now, as Dante is 0.1 second behind coming through the chicane. He will have DRS down this main straight. Will Dante, on those hard compound tires, which are properly now going to be the best tire to be, the best tire to have on now. Dante taking second place now, well before the braking zone. It is now a Aston Martin 1-2 and a McLaren 3-4 here at Jeddah now, as they approach the line to start the 8th lap of the race. Pinax will continue to have DRS behind Dante coming down towards the line, but I'll have to leave that fight for a moment, as Mousy Cheese and Tech and Semi-Daniel are all fighting in the final into the final hairpin, trying to fight for 4th place now. Oh, sorry, 5th place. Now going too wide. Mousy Cheese will have DRS going down the straight. He does manage to make the move down the inside. But is Stu... looks like there was a bit of contact between the two of them, but fortunately they managed to stay out of the wall. Now Mousy Cheese alongside still with Semi-Daniel going into the next corner. Fortunately, Mousy Cheese will have to back out that battle. Semi-Dan going wide, and Tech just out of this fight now. Very close wheel-to-wheel battles between the two of them here. Now Tech all over the gearbox there of Semi-Daniel. Will have to defend more than attack now, and the DRS straight is still a few more corners away, so Daniel has a few more opportunities to get back within that 1 second to Mousy Cheese and have the DRS. As Tech unfortunately comes spinning out of that last corner, now finds himself down 3 positions, sorry. Or even 5 positions. Oh, I was correct. Now he's down to 12th place. Unfortunately, that spin has demoted him quite a way. Dante up into third place, going around the outside. It's a lost hairpin. He does have DRS and managed to take the move again. This is going to be another situation of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. It's going to be a fight of who's going to be able to make the move first with DRS. It is very powerful on this track because you have 3 DRS straights, 2 right before the last hairpin to the line. Now coming down towards the line, almost weaving, but fortunately he does make one move to the racing line and 1 defensive move, and comes back to the racing line for the approaching corner. He defends really well. Now Pinax finds himself in 3rd place, 0.6 seconds behind. Slightly further back, we still have a few more battles that I need to try and commentate, as now Disco Stu finds himself going into the pits now. Have enough of those medium compact tyres. 0.6 seconds behind Rebellious. Unfortunately though, it did not appear as though he had DRS wide open there. So I think maybe he was just out of reach for that. Let's see, Disco Stew into the pits. He gone for the hard compound tyres. Next in the pits is Tech, also on the hard compound tyres. Now, these tyres can survive the 15 laps, but it will be a stretch. It will be very tight towards the end of the race, as they can slowly fall off, but not as much as the mediums. At this point, it will be a lot of pit strategies being in the works. We've got Pinax still 0.3 seconds behind, and we will have DRS along these next 2 straights. Now, it's lap 10, so mediums are going to be dying now, but if they make it work, it is still very much possible to see some 2 stoppers come out from the drivers, go from medium, softs, although the softs can only last on average about 5 or 6 laps. It'll be very interesting to see if any of the drivers try and do that. Dante going for a very tight line to the finish, to the pit straight. Pinax looking for a move. He looks down the inside. He's got his nose there. They've left enough space for each other, but fortunately, Dante does manage to park his car quite magnificently. I can speak English, I promise. And managed to retain his position up into 2nd place. Semi Daniel and Trexie are the next to pull the trigger and go into the pits. We've got Rebellious now promote himself up into 7th place. So Trexie, he's on the alternate strategy to his teammate. He finds himself on the hard compound tyres now and will make them work for 14 laps, same as Semi-Daniel, whereas Rebellious, the other Ferrari driver, started on those hard compound tyres. He will finish on the softer on the medium compound, which is softer to the rest of the grid, who will be finishing on the hards. Pinax now, I think those mediums are now properly starting to lose their grip. He's now finds himself 7.7 seconds behind Dante. He is closing that gap, but we'll have to see. Yeah, mode push for Ben. He's made some impressive gains, I have to say. For Ben, he found himself at the back of the grid at the end of lap 1 or lap 2. So for him now to be up into 6th place on those hard compound tyres, he's still, what is that, about 20 seconds behind the rest of the grid, but still is in that fight as Pinax goes down the inside for a move on Dante, almost colliding between the 2 drivers. Panos pulling the trigger now. He's had enough of those medium tyres. There goes Pinax as well. Dante will now inherit the lead of this race. Dante now finds himself leading this race on those 11-lap old hards. Chris now up into 2nd place on those mediums. Pinax and Panos now onto those hard compound tyres. Mousy as well now, unfortunately getting that 5-second time penalty. Though I do think I could see at the back of my screen it was just as he entered the pits. So fortunately it wasn't due to a game bug, because EA is amazing at this stuff. Slightly further back, let's see, we got Trexie right on the gearbox assembly line. He does have DRS, he does have the tyre advantage at this point, because his tyres are far newer. Now down the outside, there's leaving enough space between the 2 drivers, but unfortunately I think they have collided. But they managed to keep it together and keep their cars going and out of the walls, fortunately. I cannot see any damage between the 2 drivers. Now Trexie finds himself up into 8th place. Let's have a quick look at the penalties. Trexie with 3 seconds for exceeding track limits warnings, whilst Formula 1 and Mousy, the Alpine and the Alfa Romeo driver, have the 5-second time penalty for speeding the pit lane. As we see, Formula 1 unfortunately found himself, I think, spinning, and I think he might have, I'll have to review the footage there, but I think he might have reset to track, which unfortunately is a 10-second time penalty to the driver, as it is not permitted during the race. Now, further ahead, let's see, can we have more battles? We do. Trexie, unfortunately, getting a second 3-second time penalty for track limits. Somehow, now Chris pulls the trigger, and Pitt's had enough of those medium tyres, now finds himself pitting, I believe. Will it be the hard compound tyres? It is hard compound tyres. So no two-stoppers just yet in this race. Dante now with a 13.3 second lead. Now we have seen Dante go really long on the hard compound tyres before. At Portugal last week, he went, I think it was about 20 laps on the hard compound tyres before he opted to pit for the soft. So could we see Dante somehow whisper to the tyres perfectly to survive 20 laps around Jeddah before he decides to pit for those other tyres, as Tech now goes round the outside, DRS wide open down towards the line, into the first corner braking zone. He finds himself just ahead of the Williams driver, leaving space for the two of them, but now promotes himself into 9th place. Very good driving by the Haas driver there. But yeah, we've seen Dante do it before, where he's pushed those hard compound tyres to its limit. So are we going to see a one-stop by Dante, but a one-stop to the softs? And that will be a huge advantage over every other tyre choice available here at Jeddah. Oh my god, I can catch my breath now. There was a lot happening in that first half of the race. I'm surprised I was able to keep my words intact there for the most part. But now, let's see. We've got Ben. Ben, let's have a look at the position changes, because I think Ben qualified quite high. It'll be tyres. Yeah, Ben qualified in 4th place. And we did find him, as Panos puts in, okay, damn, Panos puts in the fastest lap with the hard compound tyres. He's really putting the work in now. But yeah, Ben started off in 4th, but unfortunately found himself in last place after a collision, I believe, with a couple of drivers out of or during the first sector. As Rebellious now pulls the trigger, had enough of those hard compound tyres. Now he'll find himself on those fresh mediums, a huge advantage to the drivers around him who are on fresh hards. But yeah, no, Ben so far, we've just gone past the halfway mark, and he's managed to climb his way all the way back up to where he had qualified, or just behind where he qualified. So very impressive drive for the Mercedes driver indeed. Point K, the second driver to fall victim to track limit penalties. So far, I have to say I'm quite impressed that we've only got 4 penalties on our drivers today, and so far only 2 of those penalties are from track limits. The other 2 are from speeding in the pit lane. So very impressive drive by everyone, as I think that's a Red Bull. No, that's a Alpine. Unfortunately, finds himself not having the best of races. Definitely a weekend for him to forget. Now back down into last place. Let's go on board with Tech here, because he is now. No, he's the second closest, and Mousy Cheese now falls victim. He's still got that 5-second time penalty from speeding in the pit lane. He now has 8 seconds with the 3 seconds on top as Point K looks to go for a move around the outside. He's got DRS through the straights. Unfortunately, there is a collision between the 2 drivers. Stu coming out of that with damage to his car. Very unfortunate to see now as Ben pulls the trigger. That's it. Ben's done with those hard compound tyres. Point K up into 11th place, but that was after a very unfortunate collision. Chris also now to fall victim to 3 seconds for the track limits. Stu, unfortunately, having a collision between him and the AlphaTauri driver, finds himself in the wall with his front wing removed. So that will definitely be a pit for the Williams driver now. Point K up into 11th place. Now, Mousy Cheese retired from the session. What's happened here? Mousy Cheese, it does appear as though he's just bumped the wall and unfortunately found himself just gone. This is a tight track, to be fair. It is very treacherous. If you're not careful, you hit one wall, you will find yourself, if you don't stop in time, in another wall. So it is very difficult to stop when you already have one incident. Now Tech coming down towards this first hairpin of the track, just behind Ben Cassie, who's already pitted. He just came out of the pits now on those medium compound tyres, so you'll definitely have a huge advantage as soon as those tyres warm up and are ready to rock and roll. Now with Tech just 0.2 behind, he is now going through the DRS detection zone. He will have DRS down this next straight. Here we go, helicopter cam. He is looking to go for a move down the inside. He's put his car there, but unfortunately is not close enough to yet fight it. But he will have DRS. He is still right on that gearbox of the Mercedes driver. And along the straight, there's the DRS line. DRS is wide open, going down towards the final hairpin of this track. He is going round the outside for a move on the Mercedes. Can he make it get it done before the braking zone? Unfortunately, he does not. Ben manages to park his car perfectly on the inside, managed to get a good exit. But Tech comes out of it with DRS. He finds himself now still fighting for it. Will we see the Haas driver try and make a move down the inside? He does. He looks to it. He does make the move. Makes a lunge. Fortunately, could not stop his car just in time to be able to make it through those final couple corners. Now, Ben still defending his position in 7th place. Very good drive by the Mercedes driver. Slightly further back, we still have, let's see, this is the Ferrari now, right on the gearbox of the AlphaTauri. Alternating strategies, so Rebellious will find himself on the far better compound with a lot more grip in the earlier parts of the race there, as I think Point K comes out of that corner slightly uneasy. Rebellious, I think, giving the position back, it was a illegal overtake. Yes, very unfortunate to see that both the Alfa Romeos are out of this race. As we see there, Robbie G is spun as well, so that promotes Point K and Rebellious up into 9th and 10th respectively. Tech still 0.2 seconds behind now, going into the chicane. Rebellious right on the gearbox. Like I said, he will have that tyre advantage over the AlphaTauri driver. Now Tech finding himself up a place, but Ben will have the DRS. So crucially, again, it is a game of DRS. Who is going to make the move in time and defend with a brilliant exit against the other driver? Ben going around the outside with DRS finds himself back up into 7th place and going back to Point K. Where are my buttons? We've got Point K defending. He's going to the inside now, to the outside. Rebellious with DRS. He's going to have a second helping of DRS going down this main straight. So will we see the Ferrari driver get his car ahead into 9th place, or will he still be behind? Point K going to the inside to defend. Rebellious around the outside. DRS is cleanly ahead. Nearly 2 car lengths ahead into the braking zone. Very easy move for the Ferrari driver now, as Robbie G finds himself in the pits. Finds himself putting on the softs, actually. Could he be going for the fastest lap? It is still 8 laps remaining in this race. So it'll be a stretch to try and make those soft tyres work to the end of the race, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I think it is box time. I think you've called it perfectly, Nadeem, because there he goes into the pits. Now he's going to have 8 laps now. 8 laps on whatever tyre he chooses, and I can't imagine it's being the softs, to be honest. Okay, count me wrong, it's the softs. Dante is going for a very bold move, has pitted off of those hards 17 laps into the race. Now onto the 18th lap, he's going to make those those softs work for 7 laps. Now that will be impressive to see. He finds himself 2 seconds ahead of Pinax now coming out of the pits. He was, when he went in the pits, 9 seconds behind Panos, now 11 seconds. 9 seconds ahead of Panos, now 11 seconds behind, so 20 seconds on the pit stop. But will he have enough of an advantage on those soft compound tyres to potentially fight his teammate for the race win, or will he keep with the team orders, I guess, to keep a clean and safe 1-2? He does have a massive tyre advantage to Pinax behind him on the hards, so Pinax is going to have an absolute hell of a time to try and cut that time down within a second to get DRS, and then on top of that, he's going to have the struggle of trying to make the overtake work because of the amount of grip that soft will have over those hold hards. Further back, we've got Ben again. He has been the star of the show, I think, because he's found himself on the main screen several times now. Semi Daniel being the 3rd driver to fall victim to the track limits. Ben now 0.4 seconds behind Semi Daniel in contention of fighting for 6th place. Ignoring penalties, Ben definitely shows that he's got the pace to potentially fight for 5th place, but unfortunately Trexie, with that 18-second gap ahead of him to Chris, it will be impossible for Ben to be able to cut that gap down and fight for it. But with the penalties, it is entirely possible. I think Trexie, as Ben, in fact, before he goes to the penalties, Ben goes round the outside, round the inside now, into the chicane. Very tight chicane. I think they did collide, but I think hopefully they both came away from that incident with no damage on each other now, with Tech right in the midst of that. I say right in the midst of that battle, but right in that battle now with DRS as well. It doesn't appear as though either driver got damaged, but again, it is EA. We can't see half the stuff that they want to show us because, well, it's EA. So we'll have to see now going down the main straight. Ben will have DRS again. Tech behind him will have DRS as well. He does look for a move, but unfortunately he's not close enough to think about actually diving down the inside or around the outside just yet. But yeah, now let's see as they go through the first exit. Let's have a look at the penalties now. Daniel with only 3 seconds of penalties, whereas Trexie with 6. Although Ben may have the pace, he will have to cut down 3 seconds at least once he gets ahead of Semi-Daniel to be in any chance of possibly fighting for that 5th place from Trexie with those 6 seconds. So far as well, I believe that all the drivers who had the 5-second time penalty, one being Formula 1, he's already pitted, so he served it. Unfortunately, he has retired from the race as well. I think coming out of, let's have a look at the, yeah, he's coming out of one of the corners. I think he finds himself sideways and on the track and out of this race. It does look like his rear right tyre is gone, so that is the 3rd driver out of this race, fortunately, from DNFing with the walls. The barriers are not happy with our drivers today. They are... well, I don't know where I'm going with that point. Let's move back to the race, shall we? Ben Cassie, again, 0.5 seconds behind. He will have DRS now going into the chicane. Now, it doesn't appear as though he's got the pace in the past 2 laps to be able to make the move just yet on Daniel. So perhaps maybe there is some damage to his car, but I say that now he's closing that gap. He's all over the rear of that. Williams now finds himself around the outside and well into the braking zone, now up into 5th or 6th place. Now he's got 5 laps now to cut 2.2 seconds to Trexie ahead of him if he wants to have a chance of having 5th place. So he's got to defend from Daniel behind him, and he has to attack to Trexie ahead of him. Let's go back to the tyres now. He does have that tyre advantage, so it definitely is something possible, but you have to be careful on this track. Track limits are an absolute killer. I think that is currently the only battle we have on the track so far, which is Daniel 0.6 seconds behind Ben. He will have DRS again, and then Ben trying to push those laps, push those mediums as hard as he can to cut that gap down to Trexie ahead of him. Dante, to no surprise, he did pit for those softs 3 laps ago, finds himself now with the fastest lap. He has cut that time down, crucially, to his teammate ahead of him by 7 seconds. As Robbie, unfortunately, has left the session. I hope that is just a disconnect problem, and we can hopefully get him back in the lobby. But Dante finds himself 7 seconds behind his teammate on those fresh medium, or 3-lap fresh mediums. They will start to drop off a cliff very soon. And he's managed to build up enough of a time gap behind him. But could we potentially have... I doubt we'd have team orders at this distance. It's not like they're a couple seconds within one another. But could we see possibly Dante somehow making those tyres work beautifully and making them work to the end of the race? That'll be 7 laps on those soft compound tyres. As we look slightly further back, we've got, let's see, Daniel still right on the gearbox. Ben has unfortunately not managed to cut down that time at all. That is crucial for him to have 5th place in this race to Trexie ahead of him. He's had to defend to Daniel behind him. Those mediums will reach as tech spins. Tech spins in the background, unfortunately. I think that's, in fact, the same corner where Mick Schumacher also had a bit of a spin in real life. Unfortunately, the Haas driver finds himself demoted by 1 position, potentially a 2nd now, as we see Point K rapidly closing in behind. Point K on those newer, still old, but 2 laps newer hard compound tyres. He will have DRS now on this next straight after the chicane. So will we see Point K take 9th place and secure himself more points in the championship for the team? Of course, there is still the penalties at play after the race. So this is only Tier 2. I'm looking forward to see what we've got in store for Tier 1 now. There goes Point K looking for a move around the outside. He does have the DRS advantage across the line. I think Point K potentially was still behind. He might have DRS along the straight. We'll have to see now. Across the line, no, unfortunately, Tech finds himself a DRS, but Point K still managing to stick really close to the gearbox of that driver. Unfortunately, again, is also not close enough to make a move further ahead of the grip on the track, sorry. We've got Chris, who is now within a second with 1 lap fresher tyres to his teammate ahead, Pinax. Chris, I think, has 3-second time penalty. Let's have a look. Penalties. Chris has got 3 seconds, so he may be able to, on track, be able to grab that 3rd place finish. But unfortunately, those 3 seconds will find himself still finishing 4th at this rate. We'll have to see. Still plenty to happen. Still 2 laps to go as Panos finishes the 23rd lap of this race. Sorry, 22nd lap of this race onto the 23rd. I can't imagine the 2 McLarens. They do have... they seem to have really good pace, the pair of them, and I can't imagine that, you know, they would be fighting for position at this point, especially we're seeing that Pinax has already won the championship. At this point, their only goal is to try and score maximum points as Tech now falls victim to the track limit penalties. Their only goal is to try and score as many points as possible to score in the Constructors Championship. It'll be interesting to see. I say it'll be interesting to see if they fight. I really don't think they will. They are, of course, communicating with one another, and it'll be interesting. So I doubt that they will. But who knows? There is 20 seconds behind Chris, so there is a chance where potentially they might decide to pit for the soft compound tyres, still manage to finish ahead of Trexie and secure a 3 and 4 for the point finishes, and perhaps pocket that fastest lap as well. So it'll be interesting to see that. I've said interesting a couple thousand times now, so I do apologise for that. Point K still fighting for that 9th place now. Finds himself 0.9 seconds behind. With only 1.5 laps remaining, will the AlphaTauri driver manage to push his way ahead? Or in fact, I think he might be ahead in terms of penalties. No, they're both 3 and 3. So it is a matter of who is on track will get it. Stu now also falling victim to the 3-second time penalty. So I said at the start of the race, I was very impressed to see only 4 drivers, only 2 with the track limits. But now we have 6 drivers with track limit penalties. That's 3 seconds for every 3 warnings that you get around this track. Of course, penalties can stack. You can have a warning, let's say, with a collision with a teammate or corner cutting. And then if you get a track limits one, that'll be 3 seconds as well. So you can have a multiple warnings one, and multiple warnings will also result in a 3-second time penalty. But I think for the most part, we've only had, I think, 2 collisions this entire race so far. With only 1 collision resulting in another driver to lose their front wing. So I'll have to see and have a look at the reports after today as Point K tried to make a move. He did have the DRS down that main straight, but unfortunately did not find himself ahead. It's still good points for AlphaTauri, still 1 point. Any point is good points. So it's still a very good win. Still a very good collection of points, I guess, is what I'm trying to say for the AlphaTauri. But now we do... there we go. We do hit that stale point where it's now the last lap. And as I mentioned, you know, those softs are going to fall off a cliff. Now, he was 6 seconds behind his teammate around 3 or 4 laps ago. Now he finds himself 12.5 seconds behind, with Pinax rapidly closing in. Pinax now 4.5 seconds behind. Now, it is the last lap, so I think Dante will be able to bring this home. But those softs are going to be crying for help. Those softs are going to have very little to no grip. So it'll be interesting to see, can Pinax keep this lap together for the duration of the 2nd and 3rd sector, finish the race in 2nd place, or will he be at risk of losing 2nd place? He does go wide into that hairpin. Now 2.5 seconds behind, 2 seconds behind, 1.5 seconds behind. Pinax is rapidly closing the gap to the driver ahead of him. Could it be a 1-2 for Aston Martin, or will it be Pinax on second place, Dante falling to third place? Now, within a second, Pinax will have DRS coming down the next straight. After this chicane, now into the DRS detection zone, Pinax is within a second, within half a second, now down the last DRS straight of this race. Pinax half a second behind. Crucially, Dante is still in the lead. He's still half a second ahead. But will Pinax get a good enough exit out of the final hairpin to possibly make a maneuver to make a move into second place? But unfortunately, he's not close enough. Dante brings it home and scores a 1-2 for Aston Martin. That was a very, very close finish between the Aston Martin and the McLaren drivers, and that is a very huge victory. A very good victory for the Aston Martin drivers to secure first and second in the Constructors' Championship, and that's another win under Panos's belt. That is a back-to-back win for the Aston Martin driver. Can he get a hat-trick next week? That will be interesting to see. But definitely, that was so close between the Aston Martin and McLaren. I was not expecting that. Trexie crossing the line, securing 5th place for the Ferrari team. Ben Cassie, stellar drive. Unfortunate to see they had a bit of a tussle at the start of that race, but he finds himself still up into 6th place. Still good points for the Mercedes team, reserving in for the Mercedes team. Rebellious closing out 8th place. Still good points for Ferrari as well. Tekes and Point K to the line were fighting, but Tekes coming out on top, and Stu to finish off the grid, and also Robbie to finish off the grid. Unfortunately, we did lose the 2 Alfa Romeos. Destroyer Drac and Mousy the Cheese did not finish this race, and Formula 1 as well, coming out in the final hairpin, found himself in the wall, and that was the end of his race. That was, oh my god, it was very exciting at the very start of this race, and then towards the very end of it, I knew those softs were going to fall off a cliff very quickly. But that was some rapid pace between the Aston Martin and the McLaren driver. That was too close for my liking. Be interesting to see how they thought of that race as well for themselves. Oh, Joe, how was that race for you? I think I've been talking for a bit too much.
I have just been eating dinner.
You know what? Fair enough. That was a very good drive. That was, I can't say it enough, but I think the Aston Martins definitely deserve that. Dante, stonking drive, superb drive, fabulous drive, amazing drive. I don't know what word I could use to describe that, because that was impressive, to say the least.
Sorry.
I can catch my breath now. We do have interviews. We do have the top 3 drivers. Pinax, of course, he already won that championship. He will continue to extend that lead. But I need a moment. I need to catch my breath. But let's I say that, let's try and get these winners in here. We have do we have first? Let's get I've already forgotten. I've lost track of what's going on now in my head. I got the screenshot for the results. Let's get Panos in here, our race winner. He went for the he went for the medium compact tires to finish on the hards, whereas teammate went for the mediums. Went for the hards to finish on the mediums. But that's what we thought. Instead, Dante came out with those softs, and it was an impressive drive. Let's get Panos in here. Panos, that was an incredible drive. You were the first driver to put in a sub-128 lap in qualifying, and now you come out with a really good race strategy and find yourself finishing and winning the race. How was that race for you? How do you feel?
2 in a row. Let's go. We got a 1-2 with Dante. I'm so happy. We got so many points in constructors and also for the championship as well, and I could have probably improved that qualifying lap, but yeah.
It's redemption day for Dante, because of course, unfortunately, he didn't manage to secure that second place last week. So it was really strong points for Aston Martin. Definitely closing that gap down to McLaren. Are you looking forward to Japan next week? Do you think that's going to be another? Do you think you could achieve the hat trick of wins for Aston Martin?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna aim for, definitely, and yeah, I'm pretty good at Japan, so I can't wait.
Well, I definitely look forward to it. I mean, it's going to be tricky. It'll be you guys fighting for the constructors, and if McLaren can defend it, it'll be interesting to see if they can do it.
Yeah, I actually have no idea what the standings are right now, so we'll have to see when they're made.
Yeah, we'll hopefully have them updated well before next race weekend, so we'll be able to see we'll get a much clearer picture as to who's in the lead. But I do believe, if my maths is correct, you guys were around, I want to say, 20 to 30 points behind the McLarens, but I could be very wrong with my maths. Honestly, I wouldn't trust my own maths.
Yeah, that's gonna be difficult to beat, but we'll do our best. Hopefully, we get another one too, and hopefully, if we do manage to get the constructors, that would just be crazy, like the most crazy comeback. Like to get the constructors in only a period of 4 races would be insane. But yeah,
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us. Let's try and get your teammate in here, Dante, who opted to go for hards for 17 laps or 18 laps, and then softs for the end of it. I don't know how he did it. Dante, I've got no words. That was a strategy I never expected. I mean, you tried that strategy in Portugal. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. You were spinning, but today was clearly redemption day because you made it work and you secured that second place. How was that race for you?
That was pretty good. That was not a easy race because Panex was I was very struggling in the beginning because his defense was good, but then when I had the chance to overtake him, I was good. And the strategy was before when I called with Panos, because I had to slow down to slow Panet, the McLaren, a little bit for Panos getting out. So me fighting with the McLaren was good for us because was Panet is going was getting away, and me I could because I had the hard tire, I could just prolong my laps with it. Then we're good to go. So that was a nice one, really.
I'm speechless for how you managed to do it because you went for the hard compound tires and those softs drop off a cliff so quickly at Saudi. And like that time on that last lap, you went from about 9 seconds behind you to Pinax to half a second across the line. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
how
because
you are so brave to push for that.
I was in the last lap. I was chill, trying to what is it to be fast, to be aggressive.
Hmm.
But I was losing so much on the tower, so I had to just to cool down because Panax was already gone, and then I was struggling. That's why I think I made some mistakes. I was too wide, and I was struggling. The only chance I had if we got another one lap, I think the McLaren could have overtaken me. And Panics told me that there were a crash or something has happened in the track. That's why they slowed down a little bit. So that was my luck. But that's the race. Sometimes you got lucky, and I think I got lucky because before I had to go for all the medium, but
Hmm.
in mid race, I decided with Panos to prolong my laps and go for the soft tire. He told me 7 laps with the soft, so that's why I pit at the 17 lap to go for the soft tire.
Well, impressive driver. You looking forward to Japan next week, where it's Suzuka?
Yeah, of course. I
Do
hope
you,
we're still going to make one too. I hope so.
do you think that could be the race for you to get a race victory before the end of the season? Do you think you could become the one on top?
Uh, it's possible, but I'm not going to lie. That's not going to be easy because my teammates is very very good. The McLaren too. So I think for Japan, it's not a good track for me, but I think I'm going to practice a lot, and maybe we can have some nice battle, and hopefully I could get the win for the last race. I hope so.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing that. Congrats again with the 1-2. Absolutely superb drive. Honestly, I'm speechless for what other words I could use. But I look forward to seeing what you bring to the track for next week at Japan.
Thank you guys, and thank you for having. That was nice though.
And now let's get our championship. I mean, you won the championship last week, and then this week, you
Oh.
managed to secure yourself that third place. How's that race for you?
This race was absolutely incredible. The track allows you to fight so well, and we and the Aston Martin guys were fighting since lap 1, but that fight didn't last for too long, I guess. After the first stints were done, we were pretty much, the positions were pretty much set in stone, so I'm sad about not getting them on the second stint, but the race overall was so good for McLaren. We got a great result as a team this weekend, and I guess we're gonna go to the end, like the last race for the constructors championship, if I'm not
Yes, you
wrong.
will. I think you'll have about. I was saying to Panos, I think you'll have about 30-point gap, 30-point lead to the Aston Martins behind you. But I think with this race victory, you might find yourself less than that.
Yeah, probably, but if we're still enough and if we still score some points, and Japan as well, I think we can get the constructors as well, because we definitely have the pace. Me and Chris are going really great. And yeah, this race was fun.
It certainly got very
Until-
close to the wire on that last lap. Fortunately, Dante's tyres were dropping off of a cliff. You managed to cut that gap down to half a second. I'm sure you were clinching. You were like really hoping that he goes wide one more time. You can grab that third place or that second place. Sorry.
Yeah, if we had one more lap, it would have been it. But also, two things happened. I need to leave the game to the AI for 30 seconds or so, because I had to talk to my parents for something. That lost me time, because AI is not really well of a driver. And also, an Alpine crashed on the last corner, and I had to be careful there to not crash into him, because I was not sure if he's going to be ghosted or not. That also lost me some really good time as well. But if those two occasions didn't happen, I probably could have got him. But also, if we had another lap, that could have been it. But also, my ERS was on almost 0% towards the end, because I was pushing when I saw the times are dropping like crazy. But yeah, I'm still happy with the P3. The gap is still like in favor for us, but we're gonna prepare well for Japan hopefully, and we'll try our best to secure the championship for McLaren as well.
Do you look forward to Japan? Do you think you could secure good points and possibly win it?
I'm not sure if I can win, but I'm hoping to get a podium at least, because Japan is one of my favorite tracks. Like Jeddah is probably my favorite track to race on, drive on, and Suzuka is probably the second one. It's a really flowing track once you get into the rhythm, and I can't wait to race there. But I have one little doubt in my mind, that like that track is really narrow because it's an old racing track, but these cars are so large in terms of shape, so it's probably gonna be difficult with racing like side by side if the person alongside you is not sensible in terms of knowing the limits and whatsoever. But hopefully the racing will be great at Suzuka as well. At least that's my hope and dream. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Japan.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for a very exciting race at Saudi Arabia, and we do look forward to seeing the battles you'll have for us in store at Suzuka. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
And I think that will definitely be it. We do have little time. We've got 15 minutes before the driver briefing for Tier 1. So Tier 1 being our most competitive F1 22 League race, where no driver is permitted any assist. All assists are restricted to off. So it is down to the driver skill around this track, around a treacherous track where the walls are tight. Fortunately, the curbs don't kill as much, but still, it will be tough. And if Tier 2 was this exciting, I can't imagine how exciting Tier 1 could be. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But please don't go anywhere. We'll be back live in about half an hour for Tier 1. So we will see you then. Thank you, Joe, for joining me, even though you were having your dinner. I hope you had a great dinner whilst I was trying to commentate that race.
You're welcome.
So we will see you then in half hour. Ciao.